Yo guys, how's it going? AK Moto here. Today I'll be showing you guys how to check the valve clearances in your Yamaha TTR110. This is a pretty easy job. You're not going to need a lot of tools. So let's get right into it. Honestly, this really shouldn't be something you have to do super often on a bike like this. But I figured I'd go in here and make a video just for those of you guys who do want to get this job done, so you know how to do it. And this is going to be pretty much the same thing for all your Model 110s, and pretty much all 4-stroke air-cooled 110s in general are pretty much the same process. So let's get right into this. Alright guys, for this job we're really not going to need a lot of tools. Here we have a 15/16 wrench, or you could just use a normal 24mm, but I don't have that size wrench, so the 15/16 will work well. We have a Phillips head screwdriver and some feeler gauges. Alright, so here first we're going to remove these two Tapback covers on the cylinder head, one towards the bottom, one towards the top, with our 15/16 wrench, or again it's a 24mm if you have that size. Now just be careful because a little bit of oil may come out, especially if you recently ran the engine, so have something in place to catch the oil. Now I haven't ran this engine in a little while, so we should be fine here. Not too much should come out, if at all, but just keep that in mind. You probably will have some oil come out if you recently ran the engine, but not so much where you need to drain it or anything. Next we're going to remove this cover right here with these two Phillips head screws. That will expose our cam gear. Next we're going to remove this access plug right here. Now you can actually get a quarter to unscrew this, but I'm just going to use a flathead screwdriver. Now that we have everything we need to remove removed, we can get our engine in time to check the valve clearances. Now here on the cam wheel, you'll see we have this line here in the case, and then there's actually a small line here on the cam gear itself that we have to line up, and then we're going to have a mark here, right over here, to line up as well. With, you guys probably won't be able to see it, so I'll put a picture on the screen. There's a small arrow in the case. Now here you can actually use the kickstand or the starter to turn the engine over, but just make sure the bike doesn't actually start up, so I'd recommend doing something like unplugging the plug. But here I'm just going to use a 14mm screw here on the end of this cam gear bolt and just turn the engine over manually, and then we want to turn it counterclockwise. Alright, so we have everything lined up and in time. I know you guys probably won't be able to see it that well on this camera, so I'll put some pictures on the screen on what everything should look like. Now just one quick comment on this cam gear. You'll see there's marker marks from, I guess, the factory that assembled the bike. We're not actually looking at those marker, but rather the small indentation in the cam gear itself. Sits right about here, maybe kind of hard for you guys to see, but there's a physical indentation in the cam gear. That's what we're looking at. We're not looking at these marker marks. So this is going to be a little difficult for me to show you guys here on the screen, but I'll put some pictures. Basically on here on the intake, we have an intake valve on top and exhaust valve on bottom. Here for the intake, the clearance is, I'll put the clearances on the screen here. But for the intake we're looking at 2/1000ths of an inch, and then for the exhaust valve we're looking at 3/1000ths of an inch for clearance. So now here for the exhaust side, we're going to take our 3/1000ths feeler gauge. Now the clearances don't have to be literally exact. It's okay to be like within 1 or 2 sizes of a feeler gauge, but you really don't want to be too far off. But it's pretty rare that the valve clearances on this bike or on these little trail bike 4-strokes will move very much at all. But you want to be pretty close to your spec. Again, 2/1000ths intake, 3/1000ths exhaust. So I just took a quick clip on my phone for the exhaust valve side, and I think that one demonstrates pretty well about what you should feel with your feeler gauge. Your feeler gauge really shouldn't get hung up when checking the valve clearance, but you also don't want it to be so loose that there's no resistance at all. There should be just a little bit of drag, just a little bit of resistance, and as the clip you just saw is a perfect demonstration. That was the exhaust valve side, right on spec. And for those that don't know, in order to change the clearance, all you got to do is loosen up that little nut and move the adjuster in and out a little bit slightly on the valve tappet. It's really pretty easy to do. All you got to do is just take a look at it and you'll see pretty quickly what you have to do in order to loosen or tighten the clearance. But again, these little bikes, these little air-cooled 4-strokes, normally don't move much at all in terms of clearance. Just make sure you're getting a nice and consistent, accurate measurement. So yeah guys, now that we're all done verifying our clearances are all good to go, we can button this thing back up, literally the reverse of the disassembly, and let's do that right now. And just a quick note guys, these covers really do not need to be tight at all. You really just kind of want them run all the way down there, that's seated, and then just that tiny little squeeze. You can see a little oil came out there, we're gonna wipe that away. But yeah, you really don't want these covers tight at all. Alright guys, and that is a quick look at how to check the valve clearances on a TTR110. And yeah, I hope you guys have enjoyed this quick little video. If you guys found it helpful, please feel free to leave a like and let me know if you guys have any other tips and tricks or videos you want to see from the 110 in the comments below. But yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.